So thanks for coming to my third workshop this quarter. I've also taught a bunch of these over the summer, and then some other workshops on different themes before that in winter quarter. My name's Kirsten. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I've been with Adventure Programs for about 4 years now. And I'd like to start off by acknowledging that we are fortunate to be able to study and work on the unceded traditional and ancestral territory of the Chumash people. Much of the knowledge that I share in these workshops comes from traditional ecological knowledge, preserved and passed down through thousands of years by Indigenous peoples. I hope that this presentation can do justice to that tradition of sharing knowledge about how to live off and protect the land, while also acknowledging that the original inhabitants of this land have been irrevocably harmed by those who arrived in their territory. I also realize that these are just words, but I hope that these words can create awareness and be a step towards future change. Today's workshop is going to focus on outdoor recreation in bear country. The purpose of this workshop is to help people be more aware of bears and how to interact with them in a way that does not end up harming themselves or the bears. We will discuss Leave No Trace for bears, common misconceptions, risk management, relevant gear, and more. I am Leave No Trace trained, so I'm a trainer, and a lot of the information I share in this workshop will be from classes I've already taught, although the slides are all pretty much new. I'm also a longtime backpacker, so I've practiced pretty much all the things that I'm going to recommend today. Please feel free to type any questions, comments, or concerns into the chat, or if I invite you to turn your mics on, just go ahead and do that. I'm going to start off with some background about interacting with wildlife. So when animals like bears interact with humans, they have different kinds of responses depending on how much time they've been spending around humans. There's like 3 stages that people define for interactions between animals and humans. The first stage is called avoidance. This is good and natural behavior where the animal stays away from and avoids humans. That second stage is attraction. This is when things start to get dangerous for the animal. At this stage, animals are actively trying to get a reward from humans, which is usually food. And the final third stage is habituation. This means they are comfortable around people, they are not scared. Most likely, the animal will not survive because they have either become dependent on human food, the human food is really bad for them, and they die from it, or they get intentionally or accidentally killed due to proximity to humans. It takes about 3 weeks for bears specifically to become food conditioned, and bears are frequently euthanized when they become habituated because they can be scary or dangerous to humans. As the saying goes, a fed bear is a dead bear. Here on this slide, I have a generalized list of guidelines for how to interact with wildlife, all of which is relevant for bears, but is also relevant for other species. Observe wildlife from a distance so that they're not scared or forced to flee. Animals waste much needed energy when they go out of their way to avoid people. We recommend bringing binoculars so that you can see them from a distance. You should also never be close enough to touch or pick up wild animals, as this can be very harmful to them. Secondly, we ask that you keep your pets on leash for the same reasons. They can be even more harmful than humans in a lot of cases. Thirdly, don't go out in small groups. The bigger the group, the more noise and habitat disturbance. And if you do go out in a big group, we recommend splitting that group up a little bit, into 2 smaller groups that stay apart. Do not feed animals, as we like to say, fed animals are dead animals. Part of not feeding them is storing food properly. If there are bear or raccoon bins available, or if parks ask you to store food in the bear canisters, please do so. Don't leave your picnic basket open or your chip bags strewn about, because human food is so bad for animals. The 4th point I have up there is camp at least 200 feet from water. The further you camp from water, the more access the animals have to the water. If we camp right on that shoreline, animals may feel too threatened to get the hydration they need, which can cause harm or death. The final point I have is wash and dispose of waste properly. Don't leave your trash out for animals to choke on. Also, if you decide to swim, don't wear a bunch of lotion, sunscreen, and bug spray. And certainly don't use shampoo and conditioner if you're in the water. Even biodegradable soaps like Dr. Bronner's aren't very healthy for animals. now for what we've all been waiting for. We'll get started on talking about the black bear itself. Um, the black bear is the most common bear you'll see in most of the U.S. and especially in California. So we're only gonna be focusing on them. But basically, bears are very strong and very smart. They can climb trees and they have great noses. They aren't inherently violent, but they can harm humans in some instances, like when they become habitualized and aren't scared of people anymore. They are kind of lazy if they know a place where people have easy food, you know. In these instances, they often won't hunt or forage for themselves because they can more easily just take the human food or the garbage. And they can remember where these places are very well, even if they are moved hundreds of miles, well, not hundreds, but many miles from that location. Black bears can be found throughout the Americas, or North America at least. I have read that there are differences between bears in different regions, mostly color differences, but there can be, like, you know, quote unquote cultural differences. For example, West Coast bears have learned how to get food down from bear hangs, and I think I heard that East Coast bears have, in some cases, learned how to open like older bear bins, which is interesting. Black bears are pretty cool. They are omnivorous, which means they eat a lot of different things, plants and meat. Their diet includes roots, berries, meat, fish, insects, larvae, grass, and other plants. They can kill like large mammals, but if they are hunting for like meat, they usually go for babies. So like a baby deer or a baby moose or something like that, or even livestock. But it's pretty rare with black bears. Bears are very attracted to human garbage and like pet food that humans leave out. Also like orchard trees. As we know, when bears eat human food, they can become habituated, and that's pretty bad. And then they also do like honey. That is not just a myth. For the most part, black bears are kind of brown in our part of the world, but in some regions they are blacker or much darker brown. They say don't use color or size to distinguish a black bear from a grizzly bear, because they can overlap in some ways. But I don't know, I think for the most part, black bears are pretty small and like darker in color than grizzlies, and their temperaments are very different, and how you interact with them is also very different. Did anyone have any questions so far? You're welcome to turn your mic on if you want, or put it in the chat. Thanks, Juliet. Alrighty, I'm gonna keep going then. Let's see. Okay, so moving on to what happens if you actually encounter a bear. Things that you do not ever want to do around a black bear. Don't approach the bear. This can be seen as threatening. Can also potentially harm the bear and harm you in the end. Don't play dead with black bears, as this makes you more vulnerable if they do happen to attack you. Again, it's unlikely that a black bear is going to harm you, but it can happen. Do not run from them, even if the bear charges you. If you can see the bear, it's not stalking you, and it's merely trying to intimidate you. Running is prey behavior and may encourage the bear to attack you for real. Black bears can run at least 30 miles per hour and can climb trees, which means you probably will not be able to get away if you tried to run. Stand your ground and retreat only very slowly, facing the animal the entire time if a bear does start approaching you. Do not shoot or kill black bears. If you're worried about populations, shooting them will not help because population increases due to more food availability. And there's other negative consequences, like if you killed a mother, her cubs could die of starvation. And if you only harmed the bear, it could really struggle and be in pain for some time before it dies. If a bear did need to be euthanized, a wildlife agency would deal with that in a humane manner. All right, now what would you do if you did encounter a black bear? What are good things that you can do? Your first step, I kind of ordered these in the order that probably makes the most sense. Your first step is to remain calm and move slowly. In most black bear encounters in California, the bear will take off as soon as it sees you. A more curious bear may stand on its hind legs to see you better, but this is not necessarily aggressive behavior. Step 2. If the bear is feeling cornered, you should back off slowly to give it room to escape. Don't turn your back on it, but do back up a few yards as calmly and slowly as you can. This is especially true if you meet a sow with her cubs. Step 3. Pick up any children that you have with you, especially small children, and leash your dog or pick up your dog. Better yet, you probably shouldn't be bringing your dog into bear country. If you put small kids on your shoulders, it can make you look bigger and helps protect the kid. Step 4, make a lot of noise. Talk, sing, or yell, bang pots. Let the bear know that you're human and intimidating. Wave your arms about. If the bear actually attacks you, again, unlikely. That's why it's the last step on there. Fight back. You want to hit it with a tree branch or kick it or punch it. But yeah, black bears are, I've seen many a black bear and never once has it done anything threatening towards me. Okay, so after you have dealt with your own personal safety, the next step is how do you keep your stuff safe? How do you keep your food and your gear safe from a bear? Don't leave anything in your car. They can crush your vehicle. They are very strong. Don't even leave a cooler visible or some like chip bag visible in your car because again, bears are smart and they can actually recognize like what human food looks like and what human food containers look like. If you do have food or trash in your car that you don't want to take with you wherever you're going out to recreate, there's usually like a bear bin, a big metal container that says food storage or put your food here to protect it from bears because those usually have like a little locking mechanism that bears can't open. Secondly, don't cook right next to where you sleep and don't eat right next to where you sleep because then your camp will smell like food and that can attract bears right into the heart of where you're staying. Keep food storage within sight, but at least 200 feet from camp. Same idea. You do not want the bear to smell the food and come exploring your campsite. What my backpacking partner and I always do is double bag everything to help prevent like smell from getting out. I'm not sure how much that works, but in our experience, if things are single bagged, smaller like rodents, like squirrels or chipmunks, they'll definitely come to our food. But if it's double bagged, we rarely see critters trying to get at our food. The last tip I have here on this slide is to put your food and other smellables into some sort of protective storage. And so I have kind of a list of gear that I recommend. 4 pieces of gear ordered in what I think are the best options for storing your food, from best to not as ideal. The goal is to keep bears out of your camp and out of your food, to protect them and to protect you. So the first one, a bear bin, that's what we talked about. It's usually in a parking lot, or if there's designated campsites, they might have them there. These are your best bet when available. They have the special latches that keep the bears out. Honestly, I can barely open them, so I would be shocked if a bear could get in. The bear canister is that second piece of gear I have for you. In many places, like in national parks in California, they're required. In places where there's bears, they're required if you're going to the backcountry. Unfortunately, they're kind of heavy and unwieldy and hard to pack. And keep in mind that some bears have learned that you can roll them off cliffs to break them so they can get the food inside. So just as long as you put them somewhere where they're not right on the edge of a cliff, probably good. The Ursack is a new piece of gear I've been trying out, and it's pretty cool. You do need to tie them to a tree, otherwise bears can run off with them because they can get their teeth in them. They're made of Kevlar, which is not terrible, but it is pierceable. So if a bear like took a munch into your Ursack because it's malleable, its teeth could get in, but it couldn't tear it open with its claws or its teeth. Um, you're probably going to want the inner critter-proof sack, because that helps prevent smell from getting out. And also, small critters like chipmunks can actually chew through Kevlar because their teeth are so small. We've had that issue and ruined a very nice Ursack. These are not legal in some places. I think in Yosemite they're not legal yet, and I don't know if they'll ever be legal. They usually require the bear can. Finally, the last option is a bear hang, which I don't recommend, and most people would not recommend just because it's so hard to get it right. And this is just a random image I found. I have no idea if that's even the accurate like distances they recommend. And there's a bunch of different ways. You can tie it to a tree. You can just free hang. You can use multiple trees. But bears are super smart and they can climb trees. So keep in mind that they could possibly get to your food if you don't do it right. And then also they can, if they see the end of the rope, they can cut that and just release your food. So yeah, personally, I do not recommend it, but I thought I'd add it here because many people do still use the bear hang, especially on the East Coast. Alrighty, let's see, I want to kind of open it up to you all. What do you think should end up in your bear bin or your bear canister? You can type it in the chat or annotate. And there's so few of us, we could even talk out loud if you want. What would you want to keep bears from eating in your can? Oh, sorry. By the way, to annotate, if you wanted to do that, go to the top of the screen where it says Kirsten is sharing her screen. And then there should be like a little more button or arrow or something. And right next to that, you can click the arrow and then go down to the bottom, press annotate, and then just type on the screen. Yeah, Juliet says anything that smells. That's a good one. I'm going to put them on the screen for you. Sherry shared toothpaste, deodorant, and food. Awesome. Thank you. Medicine, yeah. Anything else? Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good list so far. Yeah, so we call anything smellables, anything that doesn't matter if you can't smell it. If you think it probably has a smell to an animal, which have much stronger nose than we do, then you should avoid leaving that out in your campsite. Some other things I would add to this list, things like chapstick, sunscreen, bug spray. If you brought soaps, some feminine hygiene products have scents. I think the unscented ones are probably fine, but if you have scented ones, put those in there. Good garbage is on someone added. Yes, if you collect any trash over the time. If your pot or spoons or plates or whatever you're using to eat out of isn't pretty clean, I would recommend throwing that in the food storage container. Someone added clothing you cooked in. That's a good one. I've never done it, but I think if you spilled on your clothing, definitely you're gonna want to put it in your Ursack or your can. What else? If you have any beverages or those little powdered beverage bags or tea or anything, you want to put that in there. I know some people like to wake up in the middle of the night and need a snack, or they accidentally wake up and they need a snack. Don't put that in your tent. If you're diabetic or you otherwise do need food in the middle of the night, put the food somewhere nearby, but not inside of your tent. Just because you don't want that bear sniffing inside of your tent. But if it's like nearby but not in the bear bag, it's much easier for you to go get it as well. Cool. I had like one or two other things after this, but if anybody had any questions, please let me know. Sorry, I'm trying to find my erase button. Do you have any questions? Are bears more active at night? Well, that is a good question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. They might be crepuscular. I don't think they're nocturnal. I'm positive they're not nocturnal, but it's possible that they are crepuscular, which means that they like are more active during twilight. Um, if anyone knows the answer to that question off the top of their head, feel free to share. But how has your experience been with the Ursac? So like I was saying, the Ursac, it's I like it because it's so lightweight, um, and it's like more malleable, so it's not as hard to pack away as your bear canister is. But it does have the significant issue that a bear could crush your food or puncture it, and that if you don't properly keep the if you don't properly keep it like scent proof, smaller animals will also get into your bag. Oh, Charlie says they do come out at night. Interesting. I feel like I've only ever seen them during the day, but I guess that's I'm only really out and about during the day, so maybe they're the odd bears. Um, cool. Yeah, so I'm going to stop recording, and if you guys have any cool bear stories, I'll share a couple. You're welcome to. Oh, shucks, I didn't mean to unshare the screen, but I'd love to hear any stories you want to tell about bears. If you don't have any stories and want to go, my next workshop is next week, also on Friday at 12 p.m. And that'll be on, we're calling it pee, poo, and periods in the outdoors, like personal hygiene and how to take care of yourself and your bodily fluids. But yeah, I'm gonna stick around, and if you want to tell some stories, please do. Let me, how do I stop recording?